Trying to answer a really difficult question. The question that I'm trying to answer that I was asked today, I get asked this frequently. I don't know how to answer it, so we're going to work on that in this video. You want to know what the question is? Question is, how profitable, what's your win rate, conversion rate, profitability rate with your best sports algorithm file? Oh yeah, it's the college I always say it's the college basketball file. Always, always, always. This is the best one of all of them. And there are a ton of games. And the reason why I say that is because you see things like this in the college basketball file. We're 55 games here into Thursday, February 1st, even though we're overnight now, heading into Friday, February 2nd. These are the games from the first, and you have 15 wins in a row so far. And you see this frequently in the college basketball algorithm. There's just strings of wins. And one of the things we measure in here is we measure profitability. If you just bet $1 on every one of these teams to win, you end up with a chart here showing how you did and how much money you made. You only make 4 cents betting Arizona against University of California because the line was so bad. Same thing with James Madison. There's not a lot of profit to be made here because the lines were so low, but it does give you a total and a running profit total, and it shows cumulative ROI. And at its basic sense, what that means is these top games, these first 15 where you don't lose one until Liberty against New Mexico State. You would have wagered $15 and you'd have $18.75 when you're done, or made 25% on your money. If you just, bet these awful lines of these teams to win. Now, I kind of want to make it as simple as possible, which is this is the order the algorithm is kicking things out in. You don't have 15 wins in a row the rest of the way. The best you do is you have about 6 in a row here, 3 in a row, but nothing like what you have at the top of the list. And that's above 20% margin games. That's what this margin here is showing you. So the short answer is that top down is how you're supposed to play this list. Now, how can you turn that into the most amount of money, right? Like, it's one thing to make 25% cumulative ROI, which is what you make on those 15 games. But what if you played all those 15 games together? Well, here we have the round robin parlay calculator file. And I'm showing you if you put $100 on this 15 team parlay, these were the lines and they all won, and you win 24-1 on your money. That's not going to happen every day though. And also, should you be including these games that are paying almost nothing in here? And you probably shouldn't, because you should fill them with something else. But what happens if we don't take just these top games because they don't pay enough? We have to cut this off basically at a certain line, meaning we won't take a team if their line is worse than, let's say, we'll say less than minus 500. I would argue even more than that. I would almost want to say minus 300. We're talking about a money line that is greater than, we'll call it minus 400. All right. So anything better than minus 400 where it says that we think this team should win, here's the list you get. Notice you do not win 15 games in a row. You win 7 games in a row, which is still pretty darn respectable. But then you have this Liberty loss, and then things get really ugly. And when you play 15 teams in that scenario, and say you try to wager on every different combination of these 50 teams, you can't even do this on most sports books or even any sport. I have not seen a sports book that allows you to make these 32,000 wagers like this Excel file does. This is more powerful than what the sports books can handle, honestly. You can't really do this. It won't let you do these ones in the middle. They just don't. It's just so much calculation. It's ridiculous. But this is what it would be if you try to do that. We're going to spread it out a little bit and get rid of the stuff in the middle. And bring this down to a $250 wager. Here's something much more reasonable, where you play the 2s, 3s, and 4s combinations and then the 12 through 15s. Notice that you lose in this scenario. You wager $250 on a bunch of different combinations of these 15 teams here. And because you have losses with Eastern Kentucky, Purdue, Fort Wayne, Stetson, Drexel, these games here, you end up losing money, you lose 68%. That's why 15 teams is way, way, way too much. And the only time I'd recommend doing anything with 15 teams is, as the algorithm showed you here, when you don't put a filter on this and you take all those bad lines and you roll them on, that's when you can maybe hit 15 in a row. But yeah, I mean, that made 24-1. Look at how much it pays in this scenario. $250 pays 12 here. This is much more reasonable if you'd spread this all out. You still make 4-1 on your money because you don't lose a game. But I don't recommend playing 15. 15 is craziness. It's only for rare instances when you have a really good day with the algorithm like this. It's generally not going to be that good with reasonable lines. So what do you do? How do you sort this list to pick what's an optimal number? I'm going to go back and I'm going to keep that filter on of the -400 filter. And we're going to notice some things here. We're going to notice that once again, all of our games above 20% margin, with the exception of the Liberty game, win. Nothing we can do about this Liberty game. We're going to play it because we would have, because New Mexico State was listed as partly injured. So we're going to play that, but we're going to look at our list and we're going to say that 7 or 8 is pretty good. 7 or 8 is good, and actually 5, honestly, is kind of where I think it's the best to do. I think that the 5 is the most reasonable. You can really hit 5. But for the purposes of this exercise, we'll go with 8. All right, so to go with 8, you end up removing everything that's not after that's 9 through 15 from this list. Okay, and we're also going to restructure our wagers. So on most sports books, powerful sports books, this is 247 combinations. Let's say you put $1 on every single combination from the 2s through the 8s. You end up going 7-1 in these top 8, and you make 88% on your money. So your $247 turns into $464. This is pretty good. Pretty good. As I said, if you went with just 5, which is what we're going to do from here on out, because anything more than about 5 gets really, really rare and tough. No matter what you're picking. If you're picking more than 5, like things get exponentially harder to catch. Notice there are 26 wagers here. You can do, if you want to spread $100 around, this is the way it looks on a 5-team round robin. And in this situation, your $104 wager ends up with $266. You more than double your money because you hit all 5. Now, these lines still bad, right? Well, what about we change this filter again? And we say that instead of -400, we get really, really frisky and we say, how about -200? Everything better than -200. How do we do there? No, that's not going to work out. It's not going to work out, folks. Because you're going to have a loss with Eastern Washington, a loss with Purdue Fort Wayne, loss with Drexel here. This is not workable. The margins, only 2 of these games were above 20% margin and they both won. But this did not work out. So let's unfilter everything again. That's a loser if you do it that way. As you can see, what you're realizing is that the strength, this margin, it's so important. It's so important, and clearly the cutoff is somewhere around 20%, where these games are so distorted that these teams are just probably going to win. So the longer I talk about this video, the more I should just tell you that leave this stuff on here. I mean, I have a problem working with this file because we hit all 15. So it's just like, well, you won every game. Like, what are you going to do? You played the top 15 games and you won all 15 of them. That's awesome. There's a couple more games that were on this list that are still going on. But I think they're almost over. Yeah, there's a San Francisco San Diego game. Oregon State UCLA is a very interesting game that this algorithm worked on. Hawaii State and Fullerton, I believe, just ended. Or Hawaii, not Hawaii State. Hawaii Island. Yep. Hawaii wins this game. We get the Fullerton points exactly. And then the Long Beach State game, I believe, is going into overtime. And which I just want to update this because San Francisco looks like they're also going to beat. It's still 18 minutes left, so you can't really call it yet. Point is that you have a list that looks it's just profitable no matter what you do. Look at the overall profit if you just bet every single game. This is your profit. If it's green, it's starting to get into the good zone. And if it's red, it's bad. Cumulative ROI, you want this to be a positive number or else you're losing money. You're losing money through parts of this here, but it finishes up. If you bet every one of these teams, every one of those 50-something teams that are there, you win money. You do best if you stop after these top 15 because you're undefeated in these top 15. Yeah, so it just wins. Now, let's compare this to the odds makers. And I'll show you how we do that. Because you could just bet the teams with the worst odds down the list, right? If the odds makers know what they're doing and they're better than the algorithm, then they should have more than 15 in a row winning, and let's see if they do. Let's go ascending by money line. And you get the teams with the worst odds on top. And let's see how they did. They did not do as well as us because 10 teams down, they have South Dakota State at minus 500 and they lost. And we had this game much closer at margin. And that's one where it did better than the odds makers. It avoided, you did not get 15 in a row if you went down the line with the odds. Not only did you not go 15 in a row, you actually you go, oh my goodness, you go 12-3 because they had Marshall and Kennesaw State also at lines that were worse in an order that we didn't have as well, in the same way. So, and then we start to get into the underdog situation where our underdogs go 6-5. Wow. Yeah, let's look at our underdogs for a second. These are all the underdogs the algorithm has chosen for the day, not including a big one with Oregon State versus UCLA. If Oregon State somehow, which it does not look like they are doing, comes back to beat UCLA, that'll be fascinating. Here it is. It's 5-5, but it's profitable. 12% profitability. You bet $10, you end up with $11.19, and you make 12%. So there's just winning all around on money lines, just doing what this algorithm says. That's kind of the way this thing works. So I would say that if you purchase a copy of this algorithm, you, you update it. That's the logic I would follow, is I would continue to look in this format with which I generally present the file, which is descending by margin. And you would focus on teams above 20% margin and bet them to win when you can, because they do stuff like this frequently. Watch out for injuries, and watch out for horrible strength of schedule differentials. You can see that where there were losses, bad strength of schedule on Liberty, bad strength of schedule on Kennesaw State. Those both lose. Can't explain the Eastern Michigan other than them being on the road. Eastern, one of these teams was injured. Like, you would have stayed away from Portland because they looked injured against Pacific, but Pacific lost that game. Anyway, point is, it wins top down, and so you run this every day and you look at this stuff top down, and you bet on it, and you end up with a return, and the return is generally positive. And in this case, you could have done it with every single team, and I don't recommend that. I recommend on sticking games above 20% margin, but yeah. So when I get asked the question, how profitable was it? Well, today it was 15-1 on games above 10%, a 20% margin, which is more than 90%. And it yielded something like a profitability of 20%, depending on where you left off and wagered on those games, of just straight bet profit. And you can do this on a large scale, and because there's not supposed to be a tremendous amount of variance, you're not going to lose 6 or 7 of these games up here. Like, if you lose 2 of these games up here, it's a bad day for you. It's not like you see it peppered with losses like you do sometimes in the middle. Very, very rare to see clumps of losses together up here. So if you're looking at like stretching out a bankroll on these games that are above margin, if you had $100 on each one of these games today, right? You end up betting $1,500, and at the end of the day, let's say you did it down here and actually took a loss. So you made 16 bets, $1,600, and you end up with 1,800. Yeah, 1,877. You make 17% on your money. And that's if you don't throw it together to parlay around robin. It's just very predictable. So, I mean, there were some sort of reasonable lines in here. -200, -200 something, -200, -200. These are areas where the algorithm pushed those games up here better than the odds makers. That's what makes this thing profitable, is doing it better than what taking advantage of the lines you see and having them filter to the top when there's value. So that's the extensive breakdown of how do you read this into profitability. I mean, we could run tomorrow real quick, so I could show you. Gosh, if you still stuck with me to see this, it'll be worth it, because there are odds available for tomorrow's games. So it's not perfect, and I'll probably do it tomorrow, but I'm also like, I don't want to end up doing this all the time. We're just getting toward the end of the year here, so it's kind of like, I'll get you started, but I'm looking to see what the odds are for the second. There's probably a bunch of games in here. It really is prime time for college basketball. I understand people who are, it's already got a huge list of odds in here. I'm going to export those and I'm going to bring them in. I'm not going to have an injury report, but you'll be able to get still a relatively good enough look at the games. And everything I just told you about games above 20% margin, we're going to simulate them in the round robin calculator. If you stuck it out in this video, you're going to get the round robin for tomorrow before anybody else that the algorithm is representing. Now, caveat, like, I haven't updated with tomorrow's stats yet, so it will get better when you update this thing in the morning. But as for right now, what is it supposed to be? I'm pasting in the games right now. And as we go into the results pivot and we refresh, you'll see that games for the second are going to pop up. Should pop up. Here they go. And we're going to open up all games and look at the second. So what I just said about teams above 20% margin, it's not as big of a data on, or we don't have all the odds yet probably as well, but it's not as big of a data. It's these games right here. These lines. Ooh, look at that, plus 110 for Pennsylvania against Brown. Oh, but they're injured, at least they were. It's just these games right here. That's not great. Meaning, let me show you how much that pays. But this is the very very reasonably like designed version of the algorithm where profitability wise, historically, yeah, you can't do the Pennsylvania. These 5 games up top here, you know, your $104 wager, where you spread that out as a round robin. I'm going to show you what that does. We're going to pretend that we win every single game in this scenario by grabbing the scores of all those games and making them the final score. So I can show you potential payout options. So we're going to do that. And now that we've done that, it's really endless what you can do with these files. It's amazing. So this would show basically us winning every game. It should. It should. Why isn't it doing it for every game? Try it again. I thought we did this. Oh, there it is. It fixed finally. There's a lot going on in this file. So assume we win every game here on Friday. And it goes, of course, 15-0 again. But the more reasonable methodology about what the algorithm says is these games with awful lines all win. That gets you 71% if you get all those games. What if you lose one though? What if actually Kent State has been known to blow some games? They just did. If they lose, all of a sudden you lose money on this because these lines are so awful. But you're not supposed to get greedy. You're supposed to listen to the math. And the math says that these 5 teams win. You really want to hit a parlay. It's saying those 5 teams win. That's what it's saying. So if you do $100 on the parlay, at least you get 2.5. You win 1.5 on your money at least. It's a little more reasonable. So the point is the algorithm is giving you its best picks. Those 5 here at terrible lines are really good picks. And Dayton over St. Bonaventure is not that bad either at a 15% margin. And Akron against Toledo, not that bad either. You're starting to get into a 10% margin area, but the algorithm is just really good. Like I'll be really, really surprised. Although Cornell's at 87% here, that's a little bit annoying. That's reason enough not to take them. This 81% is also reason not to take Pennsylvania, along with them being on the road. Dayton and Akron are better picks here. And if you didn't stay, but if you did them all and you tried to go down further, show you some weird potential payouts here. If instead of 5, you try to go down to 8. And there's another underdog here in this scenario. You've got $247 if you bet $1 on everything. You hit this, Notice you're getting, that's not right. We're hitting all of these games. It's gotta pay more than this. Does it really only pay that? I'm amazed. Yeah, these lines are terrible right here. Hmm, tough call, but I want to go back on what I said just mathematically. Algorithm says take these 5 teams and they probably all win. That's what they're there for. All right. Good luck, everyone. I hope you enjoyed sticking around for this extensive algorithm review. It's a tough question to answer. How much does this thing win? I can think of a million ways to look at the pivot table to answer that question for you and to gauge profitability. And the only thing I can confidently tell you is that margin matters. And Thursday was a great example of margin mattering, but we've already known this, that margin matters. And so you can't ever say that anything down low on the list has a great chance of winning. That's just not the case because margin matters. So you should always be waiting or really thinking about the impact about whether or not this team is going to win as how high are they on this list. And so that's really what this table is all about. It's what reading the algorithm is all about. And you can turn this into profitability. I hope I did a decent job explaining different ways that you can put things together and different number of teams that you can put together. It just so happens that today was one of those days where all 15 came in. Not every day is like that. But if you wagered $32,000 in a crazy round robin, you would have made $132,000. Nobody's going to do that. Let's pretend you could do a penny on each one of these. Let's make this a little bit more reasonable. Now we're down to $327 wager. Yeah, you ended up with 1,600 something bucks. You would have made 4-1 on your money. Oh, San Francisco is not even in there. Hold on. This is if you stayed away from San Francisco because that game, although they're winning, they're going to win. Yeah, they're going to win. They're up by like 17. So they should win in there, but they're not done yet. It doesn't matter. If you took the next game, it doesn't matter. It's a better line. So I'm just removing games that are not finished yet, and it's going to change the payout. Yeah. It's 4.6-1, and that $300 turns into 1,800. Or for all you crazy people who are like, I'm taking the algorithm's top 15 today. I'm making 24-1 on my money. This seems like a little bit more reasonable. Like put 10 bucks on it. Yeah, you would have turned it into 252. Good for you if you do that. Anyway, so that's what all this is about. Good luck. May all your picks be winning. If you want a copy of this file, this is the round robin calculator, or a copy of this file, college basketball algorithm, because it's that time of year and you just want to be able to look at this and see what it says. Go to kenbraverman.com, purchase a copy. I'll send it out to you. All right, good luck. May all your picks be winning.